레위기 13장. Leviticus chapter 13. The Lord said to Moses, Aaron, when anyone who has a swelling or the rash or bright spot on skin that may become an infectious skin disease, he must be brought on Aaron the priest or one of his sons who is priest. The priest is to examine the sore of his skin, and if the hair in the sore has turned white and the sores appears to be more than skin deep, it is an infectious skin disease. When the priest examines him, he shall pronounce him ceremonially unclean. If the spot on the skin is white but does not appear to be more than skin deep, and the hair in it has not turned white, the priest is to put the infected persons in a person isolations for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest is to examine him, and if he sees that the sore is unchanged and has not spread in the skin, he is to dip him in isolations another 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest to be pronounced clean, he must appear before the priest again. The priest is to examine him, and if the rash has spread in the skin, he shall pronounce him unclean. If it is infectious disease, when anyone has an infectious skin disease, he must be brought to the priest. The priest is to examine him, and if there is a white swelling in the skin that has turned half white, and if there is raw flesh in the swelling, it is a chronic skin disease, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. He is not to put him on isolation, because he is already unclean. If the disease breaks out all over his skin, and so far as the priest can see, it covers all the skin of the infected person from head to foot, the priest is to examine him, and if the disease has covered his whole body, since it has all turned white, he is clean. If the disease breaks out all over the skin, and so far as the priest can see, it covers all the skin of the infected persons from head to foot, the priest is to examine him, and if the disease has covered his white, the whole body, he shall pronounce that the person's clean. Since it has all turned white, he is unclean. on him, but whenever raw material fine has But whenever raw flesh appears on him, he will be unclean. When the priest sees the raw flesh, he shall pronounce him unclean. The raw flesh is unclean. He has an infectious disease. When someone has a boils on his skin and it's here, and in a place where the boil was a white swelling or a reddish white spot appears, he must present himself to the priest. The priest is to examine it if he appear to be more than the skin deep, and the hair in it has turned white. The priest shall pronounce him unclean. But if when the priest examines there is no white hair in the most thin skin deep and has paid, then the priest is to put him on Iceland for 7 days. If it is spreading in the sky, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is infectious. When someone has a burned on the skin and a reddish white or a white spot appears in the raw flesh of the burn, the priest is to examine the spot. If the hair in it has turned white, it appears to be more than skin deep. It is an infectious disease that has broken out on the bone. The priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is an infectious skin disease. But if the priest examines it and there is no white hairs in the spot, and if it is not more than skin deep and has faded, then the priest is to put him in isolation for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine him. If it is spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is an infectious skin disease. If, however, the spot is unchanged and not spread on the skin, but has faded, it is swelling from the bone, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is only scars from the burn. If a man and a woman has sores on the head or on the chin, the priest is to examine the sore. If a man or a woman has sores on the head or on the chins, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it appears to be more than skin deep and the hair in its yellow and the chin, the priest shall pronounce the person unclean. It is an infectious disease on the head or chin. But if When the priest examines the skin or sores, it does not seem to be more than skin deep. On the seventh day, the priest is to examine the sore, and if each has not been spread and there is no yellow hairs in it, it does not appear to be more than skin deep. It must be saved except for the disease area, and the priest he must wash his clothes and he will be cleaned. But if the itch does spread in the skin after he is pronounced unclean, the priest is to examine him, and if the itch has spread the skin, if, however, the person is unclean, if in the judgment it is unclean and the black hair has grown it, the itch is healed, he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. When a man and a woman has a white spot on the skin, the priest is to examine them. When the spot has broken out on the sky, a famous person's skin. When a man has lost his hair and it's bald, he is unclean. If he has lost his hair from a fat on the it is harmless trash that is broken out on its skin, the person is unclean. When a man has lost his hair and it's bald, he is clean. If he has not lost his hair from the front of his scalp and has a bald feet, when a man has lost his hair and is bald, he is clean. If he has lost his hair from the front of his scalp and has bald forehead, he is clean. But if he had a reddish white sore on the bald head or forehead, it is infectious disease breaking out on his head or forehead. The priest is examining him, and if the swollen sores of the head or forehead is reddish white like an infectious skin disease, the man is diseased and is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him unclean because of hair. The persons with such an infectious disease must wear the two clothes, let his hairs unkempt, cover the lower part of his face, and cry out, unclean, unclean. As long as he has infection, he remains unclean, he is unclean. But if, when the priest examines it, the mildew has not spread in the clothing, or the woven or knitted materials, or the letters articles, he shall orders that the contaminated articles be washed. Then he is to isolate it for another 7 days. After the infected articles has been washed, the priest is to design it. And if they withdrew has not changed its appearance, even though it has not spread, it is unclean. Burn it with fires, whether the mildew has affected one side or the others. When the priest examines it, when the priest examines the mildew has faded after the articles has been washed, he is to tear the contaminated part out of clothing, the letters or the woven or knitted materials. But if it reappears in the clothing or in the woven or knitted materials or in the letters article, it is spreading, and whatever has mildew must be burned with the fire, the clothing or the woven or knitted water materials or leathers articles that has been washed and it is rid of millows must be washed again, and it will be clean. These are the regulations concerns contamination by mildew or oven